Have you ever noticed that some people take pride in not liking or never eating certain foods? It's something I've been thinking about lately, so I wanted to talk to you about it. So this is a topic that's been on my mind because I've seen it in a couple different places here lately, and I was discussing it with a friend the other day, and I thought it would be a good idea to talk about it here on the channel and hear your thoughts about this, because I do find it kind of interesting. So what I'm talking about is when people really take pride in not liking certain foods, or maybe even never having tried certain foods. So someone who's like, oh, I've never had a blueberry before or something, and that's like something that they almost brag about, and they don't eat blueberries because it's like a thing that they've never had one. Or, you know, for people who just don't like certain foods, it almost becomes something, again, that they brag about, like, oh, well, I don't like that. And it becomes this weird thing, to me at least, because to me it seems odd to brag about not liking foods or not trying foods. And sorry, I have a hair in my lip gloss. I think there might be a few different reasons for it. This is just stuff that I'm kind of thinking about, and it's kind of rolling around in my head. So I don't necessarily have a right answer for why this happens, but I have some ideas. So I think a big part of it probably is the sense of identity. A person kind of identifies themselves, this food that they don't eat or that they've never tried becomes a part of their identity. It's part of who they are. And I think that makes sense because that happens with a lot of different things, not just food. If someone really likes something or really dislikes something, or always does something or never does something, no matter what it is, those kinds of extreme things kind of become a part of that person's identity. It might be something that they tell other people because it's a little bit maybe unique, or at least different, or maybe unexpected. And so that's kind of who they are. And I think that makes sense because we all kind of want to pick out the things about us that do make us different. And maybe when we introduce ourselves to someone or get to know someone, it's kind of that fun fact that you can tell them. And maybe it even helps them remember you a little bit better because they can identify you with that, oh, that's the person that da 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 da. So I think that's probably part of it. And I don't think that is necessarily a bad thing. Like, we all have differences, and so a lot of times those differences do come up as a way to distinguish ourselves from other people. But it is strange to me that it happens with food, because food is different from most other things in that it's something that we need. We need to eat. You know, you don't need to ride roller coasters, so it doesn't matter if you're the person who loves roller coasters or hates roller coasters and never rides them, because that's just kind of a thing that people do, but it's not necessary for living. But when it comes to food, we need food to live. We need the energy we get from food. We need the different nutrients we get from food. So to have not eating certain foods or never having tried a certain food as part of your identity, I think that it seems a little different to me because it is something that's necessary. And I think it's something that can get in the way of a lot of fun experiences. It can get in the way of good nutrition. When people almost stick to this thing now because it's part of who they are. And one example of this that really got me thinking was I saw this video on YouTube in my suggested feed that was like, I don't know, 35-year-old man tries fruit for the first time. And I watched like the first minute or so, and it was this guy who had never eaten any fruits in his whole life, and he was gonna try a bunch of fruits in this video. Which, I mean, obviously it makes a great title for a video if you find someone like that and put them out there, because it seems so odd and strange. But I just couldn't help going through my mind and thinking, how does this happen? How are you, 35 years old or however old this guy was, and you've never tried a fruit ever? No fruits in your whole life. I kind of wanted to know more of the backstory behind that, why that was happening. And he kept saying, well, I just don't like them. I just don't like them. But it's like, you can't know that you don't like something if you've never had it. So that was really interesting to me, but also made me think, when does that go from like maybe something that was like an aversion as a kid, or maybe he was cautious as a child with food. Sorry, I just noticed you can see the floof's tail. Oh, now it's not there anymore. One of the cat's tails hanging. She's on the cat tree right now, which is right next to me. But how do you get from I'm a kid and I'm maybe nervous about eating these foods or whatever, to now like that transition to I'm an adult and I could try these things, but I'm just not going to because? And again, I think maybe it's part of that identity thing. Like, he's the guy who can go and say, well, guess what? I've never eaten any fruits. And it's kind of like, whoa, that's so interesting. That's so shocking. But to me, so I can understand that aspect of it, but it's like you're missing out on so much. You're missing out on so many different foods, so many different experiences. How often does someone like that go to a friend's house or to a restaurant or whatever and like have to pick around things or not be able to enjoy a lot of the different foods there? And why? What is the reasoning behind that? Another example is, now, who knows how true this is, but I've heard it said that Tom Brady has never eaten a strawberry, and that's like a thing, apparently. And again, it's a weird thing to me because it's like, it's not like Tom Brady doesn't have access to strawberries or couldn't eat one. Why did he never eat one up until this point? And now, at his age, he's like, I'm just not going to because that's kind of my thing, is I don't eat strawberries. I don't know, again, it's kind of a strange thing for me to wrap up in your identity, and I think it can really be unhelpful because, again, you're missing out on opportunities and you're just missing out on yummy food and things that could give your body nutrients and energy and things that your body needs. And I think that this kind of applies to dieting too, because this is something we've talked about before. Diets can become a similar situation where it becomes a part of someone's identity. I eat these foods, I never eat those foods, or I'm following this plan, or I eat this way, or whatever, and people get wrapped up in that as part of who they are, and then they start to hang out with other people who have that same identity. And you know, it kind of feeds into itself. And we've actually seen that become a big problem for some public figures where they associate themselves with one specific diet community, and they're doing that and they kind of create their whole image around that thing, the foods that they eat, and then for some reason they stop eating that way, they eat another way, and then they're like kind of lying. They like can't tell their people that they don't eat that way anymore because then people will be mad, and then when they finally can't take the pressure anymore of keeping up this charade and they have to say, look guys, I'm not actually in your group anymore, and then there's all of this backlash and everything. Wrapping up your identity and like your food stuff, not a great idea. And I will say that I think, you know, now that I think about it, I probably kind of do this a little bit myself too, just on the other end. Like, a part of my identity is someone who eats a lot of different foods and is willing to try pretty much any food. That's something that I feel like is me. Like, I love trying new cuisines and trying new things and exploring different flavors and trying new things. So it's a part of who I am, but again, it's not like this in front forward thing like my identity is the person who eats things or whatever. But I think all of us might have a little bit of that because food is a big part of our life, a big part of culture and all that kind of stuff. But when it becomes this like arbitrary exclusion of foods because that's just who I am, I don't eat these things because I don't eat these things, I do think that can be strange and can, again, get in the way of lots of great experiences. Now, let me be clear, like there's a lot of foods that you might not eat just because you don't even know they exist. There's so many different foods out there, so many that are specific to a different cuisine or culture that you might not even know that you're not eating them, or maybe you can't get them where you are or whatever. I'm not saying that everyone needs to eat every single food that's out there. There's lots of foods on this planet that I've never eaten, probably many that I will never eat in my whole life just because, again, I don't know that they exist or I can't get access to them or whatever. So that's not a problem, but it's when something that's very common, or maybe even like a whole group of foods, you just say, I don't eat those, and it's because that's who I am. I'm the person who doesn't eat those things. So I find this interesting, and I'd love to hear in the comments if you have seen examples of this, either like celebrities or maybe just, you know, someone you've seen from afar, or if you have a personal example from your own life, or maybe you yourself have, you know, had something like this personally. I would love to hear about that because I find this very interesting, an interesting phenomenon that I've been thinking about here lately. So I hope you like this video, and if you happen to be new here and you want more healthy eating tips and nutrition info and videos like this one, then make sure that you subscribe because eating healthy and living a healthy lifestyle really doesn't have to be complicated, and I'm going to show you how to do it. And if you want to watch some more videos, I have a couple linked over here that you might like. Thanks for watching. I hope you're having a great day, and I'll talk to you next time.